Now that we got our little steps handled, need to make the bed mounts. I made this little guy. It's just two pieces of strap and a tube. I bolted it through a hole in the factory hole in the frame here. You can see I had to notch the frame. Hold you upside down here. I had to notch the frame a little bit for this box tube that I have back here, and had to raise the bed floor a little bit because of the height of the frame. Everything looked kind of goofy when we had it set up at the height to sit on top of this frame. So like the bed rails are notched, I had to weld the bed rails in, which is not exactly how this bed is supposed to work. You're supposed to put the these bed rails down, put the wood on top of it, then set the bed sides on and bolt them down. But this is going to be a little bit more of a conventional style where it's a welded together bed. The front I'll still leave to where it can bolt in and out. But this is the bed mount that I came up for the back. And then I'm working on welding in these nuts into the tubes on these. So I haven't welded this to this, and that won't actually be welded to that. But I was using it to hold the washer and the nut, so I could weld the washer onto the nut here. And then that washer will be welded into this piece, and this will be welded to the frame. And we'll do the same kind of tab to that for the front here. There's a bunch of different ways I could do this. This is the way I decided that I'd do it. I need to step it off of this rail a little bit because my filler neck is coming down through there for the fuel. So I had to set it forward a little bit. So there'll be a little tube on the rail, kind of like I got in the back. Well, exactly like I got in the back. And then there'll be a tube that comes up that has a nut welded in it, so you just have to bolt it down through. I wanted to make the nut welded into it because the fuel tank is going to be over here. I don't want to deal with trying to get my arm in between there or something to bolt this down. On the rear, there's nothing in the way, so I'm not too worried about that. Also, with the bolt inside that upper tube, this is the bottom tube, but same tube, there's adjustment. You know, that bolt could be anywhere in here. So I'm giving an adjustment to where the bed could be moved around. Although I finally got it lined up with the cab. You can see there and there, we got a good line. I was measuring out off the frame here, and it ended up being equal, and the top still wasn't. So what had happened was the top of the bed had twisted over, which isn't surprising with pulling this off of trucks and getting rid of a different front piece and the fact that it was a truck. And so I just bolted it down and then shoved the top, and it popped it right into place. Alright, got our little guys made here. I put a washer in between there so it could have some room for this piece to move around if it needed adjustment. I want to account for that while I'm putting it on. Now we're going to cut our straps that'll go to the hat channel on the bed, and I'll weld those on, and then we'll weld the tubes to the frame. Got our two pieces here with our little Fujima floppets on there. And we can play jets for a little while before we put them on. Maybe not. Well, you know what I call those? Pretty freaking legit. I'll be able to get the weld on the bottom side of that tube when I can get to it. But now, those will just unbolt from the top. Nuts will stay in the bed. The back ones, you'll have to get a wrench on the bottom to tighten up. But should be pretty easy, and I'm only going to put 4 in. I just think any more than that is just overkill. I wanted to use these bigger bolts just because it's a bigger truck, you know. We could still use a chrome button head if we wanted to, but I think the big bolts will look cool since it's a big truck. So yeah, I like that.
Black and dead, black and blue. The black and down, the market is to American government. Black and dead, black and blue.